Hello everyone and welcome to today's gameplay stream. I am Darkside Phil. It is Wednesday, August 10th, 2016. Welcome to the pre-stream. I'm starting late today because I did some game testing earlier of the games that I received in the mail yesterday. Games such as Scarface for the original Xbox, The Godfather 2 for Xbox 360, and I did get Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the Xbox 360, but since I've ordered it, I've overwhelmingly received a bunch of people telling me don't play that version of the game. It's an inferior version and it's a broken piece of crap. So I guess I'll take that game and I don't know. I'll use it as a coaster. I don't know. I'll use it to prop up a wobbly chair or table or something. I guess I'm not going to play it. From what everyone's saying, that I should not be playing that version of the game. I should play the PS4 version. But anyway, I digress. Thank you for being here on today's live stream. If you're not aware, today is the continuation of No Man's Sky. And after playing it all day yesterday, about 5 hours of progress, my opinion on it so far. Alright, I think that the game is unique and original. I think that the game has some technical achievements. But I think the game certainly has room to grow. In a lot of ways. Alright, and what I mean by that is, I think that this game is the start of something good, but at least right now, from what I can tell, it certainly needs some tweaks and improvements for it to be truly a great game. For example, the game has absolutely no tutorial and no explanation of anything. So, for the first few hours that I was playing it yesterday, I was walking by these structures, I didn't know what they were. They were incredibly important upgrades to your exosuit, so you could get more inventory space, because the game's primary limitation is that you don't have enough inventory to hold all the resources you need. And I had no idea that's where you get the inventory upgrades. So I could have flubbed around for hours not knowing what the hell I was doing and never upgraded my inventory if I didn't look it up online after my first stream and said, oh shit, I wish I had known that because I passed by like 10 of these and didn't know what they were. So I'm sorry, I know a lot of people say, oh, I like that kind of game where I get to figure it out for myself. You know what I call that? I call that wasting time. It's 2016, you know? This, again, I have to hark back to the 1980s. In the 1980s and 90s, game developers could only fit a certain amount of content onto a game cartridge. Therefore, they purposely didn't put instructions into their games so that you would have a learning curve time to extend the length of the game. In 2016, we could put an incredible amount of data into a video game. Therefore, there's no reason to not have a tutorial to explain the basics of a game. Alright? So, that's number one, I think, one of the big things that's the problem with No Man's Sky. It's just not self-explanatory enough. People would jump in and enjoy the game more if they knew what they should be looking for and what they should be doing within the first hour of the game, rather than flubbing about, and then after 3 hours, saying, alright, I'm frustrated, let me look shit up. You look it up, and immediately you have a revelation. Right? So that's number one. Number two, there's no clear-cut narrative or really progression when it comes to any kind of a plot or story. And I don't think a lot of people maybe are playing the game for that, but I think that's going to be a big diversive thing for a lot of people. A lot of people just don't like gameplay for gameplay's sake. Some people do. And notably, people who play games like MMOs or these new cooperative shooters, a lot of these people are playing gameplay just for gameplay's sake. And if that's the kind of gamer you are, you'll probably like No Man's Sky. But I think a lot of people are going to say, you know, what's the end game here? I'm just trying to get to the center of the universe, by the way, which the game doesn't explain, so you wouldn't even know that's your goal if you're just playing the game again and not looking stuff up online to know that that's what you're supposed to be doing. And without any kind of direction, you really can just be scratching your head like, what am I even doing this for? Why am I playing this game? I don't even understand. Now, yesterday, here's the thing. Yesterday, after 5 hours of playing No Man's Sky, okay, I randomly, out of nowhere, encountered an obelisk kind of thing on a planet that basically gave me a clue as to the whereabouts of Atlas, this mysterious red orb that showed up at the very beginning of the game. It was the first thing you saw in the game. So, it's like, wow, so you flub about for 5 hours, literally not knowing what you're doing or why you're doing it, and then all of a sudden, the game kind of throws you a bone, randomly out of nowhere, and says, here's some story, this is what you should do. Now, again, kind of scratching my head, like, was that intentional? Or was it just random? Could I have played this game for 25 hours before I randomly encountered this thing that would have told me something about Atlas? Could I have encountered it within 10 minutes? Because this game is progressively generated, meaning everything supposedly is random and on-the-fly generated. So could that have changed depending on, is this my own unique gameplay experience and other people are experiencing things differently? I have no idea. You know, and there's no way to really tell unless you're following along other people who are playing the game. So, initially, after 5 hours of gameplay, I think it's unique and interesting and different, but the bottom line is it lacks a lot of elements that modern games have, like explanations, like a narrative-driven story that makes you want to continue going, because you're seeking some kind of an endgame goal. And without that, I don't know how many people are going to want to buy and continue to play the game. A lot of people, this was interesting. A lot of people yesterday, okay, said, this is the kind of game that you kind of lay back, you come home from a day of work, or a day of school, or whatever it is that you do during the day that's kind of like your stressful time, right? And you come home, and you pop in No Man's Sky, you boot it up, and you play it for a few hours, kind of mindlessly. You're not really actively concentrating on it. Maybe there's a television playing in the background, or you're watching videos, or something else is going on. It's kind of that game that's the white noise game that you do during other stuff, and you don't necessarily need to focus all of your attention on it. And certainly for someone who's going to like stream this game long term, it's not going to retain attention. In fact, last night, some people brought up a really interesting point. They said, for people who stream games on places like Twitch or YouTube, and they have insane amounts of stream interactivity. Those people that really don't stream games because they care about the games, but because they're all about the social aspect of talking back and forth with their audiences, this is your game because you don't need to focus on it. There's no real narrative going on. You're just going through busy work, and you know, every once in a while there'll be, oh, a new milestone, you've got a new ship, or you did this or that. But really, there's nothing that's like mind-blowing that you need to be focusing on the game primarily. It becomes more of just a social deal where you kind of go, go back and forth. It's an ultra chill game that's meant to be played while you're doing other stuff. So this could be the ultimate streamer's game for those who want to be a social streamer. No Man's Sky could be the game you play every day. You just talk with people about current events and your life and shoot the shit and, have a drink or a smoke and you play the game and that's it. But does that mean, is that the game that people are looking for in 2016? You know what I mean? I don't know. So here's the deal. Yesterday I ended, as I said, following Atlas. Atlas showed up and kind of gave me a clue. It said, follow this path and you will find me, okay? So today's goal on today's stream is to follow the path and see if we can intercept Atlas and get more story. Because the bottom line is I think I've kind of exceeded the bounds of what you can do in this game just for the sake of doing it. I've gotten resources, I've crafted items, I've upgraded my multi-tool, I've upgraded my exosuit, I've now bought a new ship, which was the last thing I did yesterday. I bought a new spaceship that had more inventory and better equipment and stuff equipped to it. Okay. I've gone to space stations, I've had a dogfight with a guy who was trying to kill me, I've blown up asteroids, I've done the vast majority of stuff that I think the game intends you to do. So now I'm seeking more. I want to see what is, I've even scanned creatures and tried to get them into my database. So now what I think I want to do is try to progress with some kind of story. Alright? Some kind of story. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to translate well. We'll see. Today's kind of the defining stream. I'm going to be upfront and honest with everyone here. I'm going to play this for around 3 to 3.5 hours. If I can find some kind of definitive story that's, hooking me and I want to keep playing it, great. If not, what I may do is play it a few more times as like a secondary stream coming up in the next week. But do I see myself doing a long-form playthrough of a game which really doesn't have any kind of narrative design, that really there's no end game, and you're just playing it for the sake of playing it? I don't know. It's certainly an interesting experiment that I wanted to check out. Is it something that I want to play for 60 hours and get nowhere for it? Probably not. Okay. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm curious today. I hope that today, if I follow this path that the game has drawn for me to get to Atlas, that I can find Atlas and it'll give me some kind of a direction to go in rather than just flubbing around. Alright. Now, before we get started, I'm not going to do a long gratuitous plug segment today. I'm not, alright? But I'm going to let you know a few quick things. Number one, tonight, I'm going to be doing a first impressions video on No Man's Sky for my YouTube channel, KO Gaming. You can see the link here. It's youtube.com/KO Gaming 1. I'm going to outline the stuff I just talked about, but I'm going to add in any new experiences that we get from today's gameplay stream. So, if you're interested in my overall view of the game after playing it for 2 days, you can get that tonight on KO Gaming. Okay? Number two, I today tested out 3 games, which I'm going to be doing a poll tonight on which game I should do a playthrough of. Scarface on Xbox, Godfather 2 on Xbox 360, or Grand Theft Auto Grand Andreas, I almost said. San Andreas, which is probably going to be the PS4 version, which everyone is saying is the best version of the game, period. I'm going to do a poll on social media tonight, @TheyCallMeDSP, for people to vote on. Now, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily 100% going to go off of the poll with what I choose to play, but it's going to heavily influence me, alright? So, yeah, that's going to start tomorrow. As a main gameplay stream, whatever wins the poll is going to be tomorrow's stream, and will probably carry us sometime into next week, alright? And then I'll balance that with No Man's Sky until new stuff next week. We've got a new Hitman episode coming out and a lot of other stuff. So I'll talk about that next week, alright? Now, the one thing that I want to focus on and clarify for everyone, because there's a lot of confusion, and you know what? You're absolutely right. It is confusing because of recent changes that have happened that were not in my control, by the way, okay? So allow me to explain. Allow me to explain, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about Patreon. It's going to take about 5 minutes. So please relax. We started late. We're going to go a little late on the pre-stream, but I want to clarify this for everyone so everyone understands, because people are very confused. And already I'm getting confused tweets. What is this? I don't understand this and that. You lowered this to this and this. All right, allow me to explain, all right? What I should actually do is I should bring up Patreon. I probably should. All right, hold on a second here. I can't do it from here. Son of a bitch. Because I don't have my keyboard in front of me. And I don't even have it favorited. Son of a bitch. Well, wait a minute. Maybe I can. Is that it? That's not it. Fuck! Alright. Hold on. Load! What the fuck? Okay. Wow, that's not working at all. Huh. Nope. That's quite interesting. Of course it doesn't want to work. There, I'll do that. Huh. Okay, much better. What a pain in the ass to get that set up. What a serious pain in the ass just to get you to see that. Alright, so what you're seeing here, ladies and gentlemen, is my Patreon page, alright? Patreon.com/DarkSidePhil. Now, you might say, I don't understand this, Phil, because on Patreon previously... Hold on, my monitor's not crooked enough for me to see here. There we go. Alright. You may say, previously, your goal, your monthly funding goal on Patreon was $1,250. All right, and right now it's down to $1,025. Okay, you might say, Phil, why did you do that? I'm confused. You used to always try to get $1,250 a month as your funding goal for Patreon, and it looks like it's been lowered. So I'm very confused as to what's going on, alright? I want to explain this, because this is different, alright? Here's what happened. Until about 2 months ago, I'd say 2 to 3 months ago, actually, Patreon always displayed publicly whatever people pledged to me on patreon.com/DarkSidePhil, alright? So, no matter what people pledged, they could pledge $1, $5, $100, $1,000. Patreon would just get all that together and say, this is what's pledged. Now, the problem with that is people always pledged falsely. I had people who were coming to my Patreon and pledging false amounts of money. Alright? Just blatantly false money. Okay? And it was ridiculous because it would overinflate the total. And because of that, people would say, wow, Phil's doing good. It says he has $1,500, $1,800 this month. When in reality, it was all fake. It was kids going in there and false pledging. Okay? Now, so what Patreon did about 3 months ago is that they completely changed the way that this number you're seeing here is displayed. What they started doing is they looked at what actually processed for you each month. So, for example, let's say 3 months ago, I had $1,700 pledged to my Patreon, but out of that, $500 was fake. $500 were fake pledges, people who were just dicking around. So what Patreon would do is say, oh, so there were 500 fake pledges, so we're going to subtract that from what actually Phil had pledged this month. And what we're going to do is change the number that's displayed. So what you see right here, this number here, $829, is not correct. That's actually not what's being pledged towards my Patreon right now. In fact, in reality, okay, I think it's about $1,050. That's the reality. It's like $1,050 and change or something like that. It's probably like a couple bucks, like $1,047 or something like that. That's what's really being pledged to my Patreon. But what Patreon has done is said, oh, well, in the past, we've seen you had false pledges, so we're just going to estimate you're going to still have false pledges, and we're going to artificially reduce the amount that it shows as pledged to you on your page. So this number is false. Okay? And I talked to Patreon about it, and they said, well, this is our new algorithm, and we don't want to change the algorithm, and we don't want to mess with it, because then for other people it'll screw it up, and we don't have the ability to custom code your page to account for the fact that you had false pledgees in the past, alright? So basically, Patreon changed stuff, and there's no way to change it back. Okay? Now, here's what I did. Last month, I made an announcement that if you're going to pledge to my Patreon, you have to be charged up front. Okay? So, in order to pledge to my Patreon, and whenever you're going to, if it's a new pledge, or if you're going to upgrade a pledge to a bigger amount from what you usually pledge to my Patreon if you're an ongoing patron, it does it automatically. It charges it immediately. Now, why did I do that? So that would completely eliminate false pledging. That way, I'm going to pledge $100 to Phil and lie. When they go to do it, it says, well, if you want to pledge, you have to charge your credit card now. And they go, oh, I'm not going to do that. And they immediately back out. So effectively, as of July of this year, last month, I eliminated all false pledges from my Patreon page. They're all gone, okay? So unfortunately, what happened was, we have this number that's wrong, because it's expecting false pledges, but I eliminated all false pledges. So in reality, what this should say is $1,040 something bucks, And that would be accurate. But it's not saying that because Patreon made this change to their business, to the website. And they don't want to change it. So the only thing that I could do to make this make more sense would be to artificially lower my goal for the month, okay? So let me give you an example. Right now, there's about $1,050 pledged to my Patreon for the month of August. As you can see here, we're only about $200 short of hitting the goal. So if I get $200 more pledged to my Patreon for the month, we hit the goal, and that means we're going to do the monthly goal, which, FYI, let me get the cursor back over here so I can show you, which is one of these Patrons' Choice playthroughs. It's going to be the patrons who pledge $5 or more will be voting on one of these playthroughs, which will be a full playthrough that will take place starting in the month of September. It's a guaranteed full playthrough. So I just want to make that clear. It's not like it used to be where it's a one-day marathon and it might or might not, be a full game or whatever. No, it's going to be a full playthrough guaranteed starting in September. Okay? That's directly based off of your feedback, what you've told me you wanted. You said, I want a guaranteed full playthrough. Alright? So, that's the deal. If we hit the goal, this is what you're going to get. So, I only need about $200 more pledges. Actually, if you look here, less than $200 more pledges. Hold on, let me get the cursor back over there if I can. This way, there it is. Less than $200 more, and then it will be funded. We'll have the Patron's Choice for the month. And I just wanted people to understand, I didn't lower my goal. I didn't actually lower my funding goal at all. If I get $200 more of pledges, I'll be getting the same amount that I had pledged every month since I started Patreon in 2015. It's just that Patreon changed the way you can see the amounts, so I had to artificially adjust my amount that you can see public facing, but the funding amount behind the scenes is the same. Alright? I hope that explains it. The bottom line is, don't worry. If we hit this goal, I'm getting the same amount of pledge funding that I always did. There's no difference. Just Patreon made a change behind the scenes. I can't change it, so I had to adjust. I need about, $200 more pledges by the end of the month, and then we'll do the Patron's Choice playthrough. That's the bottom line. Okay, enough of that. I don't even want to go on any longer, because I'm wasting so much time talking about it. So anyway, if you enjoy my daily live streams, if you enjoy, all the stuff that I do, okay. You like the on-demand videos. You like the edited stuff on KO Game. You like everything I'm doing. You want to see me continue to do this full-time. You want to see me continue to have fun gaming for you on a daily basis. Patreon is the way to help. Your personal pledges allow me to continue to do this full-time because YouTube ad revenue is great, and yes, YouTube is my bread and butter, but YouTube alone can't pay the bills. This supplemental income has allowed me in 2016 to continue to do what I do and love, and thank you to those who are ongoing pledgees. You guys and gals are awesome, so thanks for that support, alright? And that's it. I don't want to go any further on about this. I already have. I hope that explains the Patreon situation. I know it's confusing, but it is what it is. $200 more pledges at patreon.com/darksidephil, and we'll hit the monthly goal, and we can go from there. Last but not least, my girlfriend's business, of course, The Black Currant. She sells handmade glycerin soaps and wax tart melts. Check it out. A lot of people like it. Hundreds of orders. Nothing but positive feedback since she opened last year. And that's it. Let's end the pre-stream. Let's begin with No Man's Sky. Let's see if we can find some narrative direction for the game. And hopefully, by the end of today's stream, we'll have more of an idea of what exactly they were going for with it. Alright? Fair enough? Alright. Thank you. Let us begin.